This is the Bat Pod.
Grab your bat microphone, it's time to start the show.
Welcome to the Bat Pod, a Batman comic book discussion podcast. On today's show, we'll be discussing Batman 236 and World's Finest 288.
Swing quick like Tim Drake, fierce like Damien. Grab your headphones, listen up, you know you love it. Drop the facade. Like the Dark Knight detective, they've got some perspective. They're a pure crime-fighting collective. It's the Bat Pod.
Welcome to episode 107. My name is Bill Beer, and joining me tonight, the haunted specter of the Bat Pod, J. David Weeder.
I just can't get the voices to stop. They said there's medication for it, but they haven't prescribed anything.
I'm sure there is. Sure there is. I'm referring to a book that we're doing tonight, and we'll get to that because I have some true fears that are going to come out right here on the show.
Oh, okay. This is going to be like a Dr. Phil moment.
Yes, basically. So,
you know what? Speaking of, not fears, but things that we haven't talked about. This is my 4th episode, and I haven't mentioned my Batman-themed bathroom.
No, you haven't.
Yeah, I'm a little sad about that. I'm so committed to my dad jokes that an entire room in my house is one. It's the bat room.
And it's the bathroom.
Bat room.
You call it the bat room.
Yeah, but it's a bathroom.
That's pretty cool. Do you have like a bat bidet or what do you have going on?
No, I don't have a bat shower curtain. I've got McFarlane figures and statues on displayed, Funko Pops, etc.
Oh, that's cool.
The handles on all the cabinets are bat-shaped, so...
Oh, nice. That's very nice.
Just had to put that flex out there.
Nice. That's pretty cool. Love to see some pictures of that. Not while you're like,
No, not while I'm doing the business. Yeah.
Right. We did get an iTunes review in the last few weeks that I want to mention. And it's a 5-star review from Brett 8. And the title is, Great Show, however, where's Sean? So, Brett 8, I think I dropped the ball a little bit because me and Sean, he had been my regular co-host for a while, and then things kind of stopped. I did a couple episodes with some other podcasters, and then we just started, we changed the show a little bit to do back issues, and I brought on David. And I didn't mention that Sean, things happen in life, and he wasn't able to do the show regularly anymore, and he stepped away. So that's where Sean is. It's my bad for not mentioning it to let everyone know. Really appreciate the iTunes review.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I just kind of showed up one day.
Yeah, it was a knock on the door, and...
I hear you need a co-host. I have ideas.
So, a little Easter egg for people out there that don't know. Me and David actually were in discussions, him to come on to be the co-host a few years prior.
Yep. That was when...
If I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was when you were looking for one, and that was when Sean came in.
Yep.
Because I was, at that time, doing 2 other shows. I'm like, I maybe don't have the time to devote to this.
So yeah, great to have you, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it has. We've had some good books, thankfully.
Yes, absolutely. So tonight, as I said, we got a single issue of Batman that I picked that is one of my favorite for different reasons. And then we're going to end our World's Finest story. Let's go ahead and we're going to head to the books.
To the Batmobile. Let's go. Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed. Here, ready to move up.
So first up is Bill's pick, Batman number 236, cover dated November 1971. I wasn't born yet, Bill. I just want to point that out.
Oh, I was.
Oh, neat.
But I didn't really need to point that.
But this has a cover by Neil Adams and Dick Giordano. There's nothing wrong with that. And it shows Batman facing a man with, is that a pick? Yeah, it'd be like a mining pick.
Yep.
As a ghost behind him urges him to kill. So this was your pick, Bill. Did this cover grab you?
It definitely was the cover that initially grabbed me. It's one of those covers, those old school comic book covers, where there's a lot of action going on the cover. and you're like, hey, I gotta open this up to see what's going on inside.
It's definitely, yeah, it's attention getting. It was, and I'm reading it in black and white, so out of the showcase, so it still stands out.
Yeah.
But inside is a story entitled Wail of the Ghost Bride. That's W-A-I-L, not like the sea-going animal. It's written by Frank Robbins, penciled by Irv Novick, and inked by Dick Giordano. Again, nothing wrong with this creative team.
Nope.
So it begins as Bruce Wayne is on a flight home from a long business trip and is reading a book about unsolved mysteries. I feel like Robert Stack should show up there. In one case, set in Gotham City, was a young woman named Corinne Helbane, who was never found and presumed dead after an accident on the ship she was aboard during her honeymoon. Bruce's mind becomes disturbed by the ghostly figure of the young woman, and once he lands in Gotham, he decides to investigate the case further. Coincidentally, or not, Bruce gets an invitation to the old Helbane Manor, which is bound to be destroyed. During the event, Bruce notices that someone has reached inside the forbidden area of the house and follows the trail to the upper floor of the mansion. There he finds a group of men who are trying to remove the quote-unquote lost corpse from the walls of the manor. Batman recognizes the leader as the former husband of the late bride and deduces that the man murdered her in order to get her fortune and hid the corpse in the walls of the manor. When he learned the place was set to be destroyed, he hurried back to remove the evidence, but his efforts were thwarted by the Batman. After the case is solved, Batman comes to the conclusion that his subconscious mind projected the image of the deceased lady into him so he could crack the case. But he also admits there's a possible supernatural explanation to the ghostly figure of the dead bride. So Bill, you said this is one of your favorites. What do you love about this story?
The cover, I love the cover. It's absolutely amazing, and it's one of those, that word balloons on the cover, and I always loved to see that sort of thing. This one-and-done story that we have in here, Bruce is reading, Unsolved Mysteries, and he discovers the story, and he's haunted by the story. I mean, he's haunted so much that he sees the ghost bride outside the plane. Either she's floating or whatever. And I don't know about you, but what became popular in the 80s is the Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
Not Afraid of No Ghost. Well, one host here of the Bat Pod don't like ghosts. One of the movies I saw back when I was a kid, Poltergeist, scared the crap out of me.
Oh, it scared the crap out of anybody that saw that, yeah.
Yes.
That's terrifying.
And Ghosts is like, okay, it's always been fascinating, especially in comics, to read the story here. So I was really compelled by the story. It might not be the greatest story, as complex, and the plot isn't so intricate. It's fairly straightforward, but I really enjoyed what we got.
I was very pleasantly surprised. I had not read this one yet.
Uh-huh.
And I thought it was just a nice, like you said, a one-and-done story. It's not the most complex thing, but it keeps you turning the page. Yeah,
and she gets in his mind because he even passes, one of the window, whatever you call the old school, you're walking down the street and they have the mannequins in the windows.
Mm-hmm.
It's somebody dressed like a bride, and he gets another vision or whatever you want to call it. He sees Corn again. So it's in his head. It's a coincidence because as soon as he gets home, he has an invitation to go to help raise Helbane. It's a benefit that they're basically going in there and just destroying the house.
Yep. It's like a rage room, but you got to pay, and it's a real house.
Right.
Which I think is genius.
So that was kind of cool. I did like that. The art in here is fantastic. Especially in the version that I have, I just love it. I love the way the Batman, his cape is. The colors are really good. The artwork in this, and you got your thought balloons. Love the thought balloons.
Irv Novick has become a relatively late in life discovery for me. He is extremely underrated.
Oh, absolutely.
Oddly enough, as I was driving to work, I was listening to the Overlook Dark Knight, so I'll give a plug for them. And they were talking about how great Irv is. I'm like, yes, guys, I know. He's consistent. He's incredibly consistent. It's always good quality.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you there. And then we get Bruce when he gets to the house, grab yourself. They got sledgehammers, axes. And he's like, this madhouse has no place for me. I mean, it's just people chopping up stuff. Looks like they're chopping the floor. That could get kind of dangerous, you know?
It's a lot of rich socialites up there who know nothing about construction or engineering.
Right. And the one lady is smashing a mirror. Doesn't she know she's going to have 7 years bad luck? But he goes upstairs and attacks some thugs. He changes into Batman and attacks some goons that are out there, and you find out the real story that the husband murdered the wife. She never even made it to the boat. And then he just stuck her in the wall.
Yep, and he had another lady pretend to be his wife.
Yes.
Genius. It's actually quite genius. It's like a Hitchcock story.
Yes. Yeah, that exactly. And of course, Batman gets the upper hand in this. There's a lesson to be learned here, especially if you're going to hide whoever you decide to murder in the walls of your house. When you go to move, don't leave the dead body there to be discovered at a later date.
Are you telling us how to cover our tracks, Bill?
I'm just saying.
I learned a lot this episode. Just wait till what I learned this time.
No, and you know, the lady that was doing the destruction, the charity work, she was the one that posed as the wife.
And had no idea. She could have been the instrument to her own downfall. And it kind of ended up being that way, but more directly.
And she's like, I thought you got rid of that. And then she says that she was in love and never dreamed he abandoned me so soon. Okay, he murdered his wife. What did you think?
Yeah. How did you think this was going to go?
Not a intricate plot, but, you know, it was an issue I always enjoyed. I read it from time to time. And, you know, he even says at the end here, he looks like he's, the epilogue, Batman looks like he's talking to you. And he's like, the spirit had risen from the pages of the unsolved casebook crying out for justice. He invoked it in his mind, or was it something supernatural? And that makes you think a little bit. You know, did Batman read this and, you know, he was kind of tired and it got into his head a little bit and he started seeing things? Or was it really the ghost?
Or was this a way to cover their tails with the Comics Code Authority?
Oh, maybe.
But I like the idea that it can be taken both ways.
Right.
Which way did you take it?
I took it that he was tired and it got into his head a little bit and he started seeing things.
That's how I took it too. He just sees an injustice and it really chafed him and
right, because I don't want to imagine that it was real because I can't. Yeah, that would scare the crap out of me.
Bill's not sleeping tonight. So for somebody who's scared of ghosts, this is one of your standout stories?
I enjoy it for that reason. I've never seen a ghost. I've never witnessed a ghost, let's put it that way. So
that you know of.
Right, that I know of. There was a backstory in here with Robin, and it's a continued story of him, you know, as he's off at college and that sort of thing. So that wasn't bad. It was a continuation of several issues, and I always like to see Robin off on his own, Dick Grayson, and that sort of thing.
I didn't read that one because I'd have to switch over to a different showcase.
Oh, yeah.
This is the way they're reprinted, but...
Any final thoughts about this one?
No, this was... I love the gothic ideas coming out in the 70s where it's like, let's put Batman in some horror stories. It has that Dark Shadows feel, like the show Dark Shadows. Especially when Frank Robbins draws it. I know he wrote here, but...
Yeah, and I love me some Dark Shadows.
I just realized that everybody that Frank Robbins draws looks like Barnabas Collins.
Right.
Now I will never unsee it.
Last thing I'll mention here is I really like the covers where you see Batman in his cape. You know, Batman with his cape in the title, and it has Batman and Robin.
Oh, the logo, yes.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, Batman normally wears a cape. Okay, now it makes sense. The logo. Yeah, the trade dress.
Yeah. In fact, I think that's the logo that's copyrighted.
Oh, yeah, we didn't mention that we changed our logo. Well, you changed the logo.
Yes, we did change the logo. We didn't put that right up front, but that's the reason. It was copyrighted, and there's an example why right there, because I basically just had the Batman with the cow shape in our logo, and we changed it up a little bit. We got some microphones in the logo, and okay, let's go ahead and we're going to head to this podcast promo.
The Long Halloween, Hush, Dark Knight Returns, The Killing Joke.
These are all Batman stories that have been talked about countless times over the years.
They are considered classics, and in most cases, that title is fitting.
The thing is, Batman is nearly 8 decades old, and whilst those stories are worth talking about, there are plenty of other Bat comics that are being a tad overlooked.
And that's where we come in. Hi everybody, my name is Michael Bailey.
And I'm Andrew Leyland.
Andy and I decided that it was a crime that there were so many great Batman stories out there that weren't getting their due.
To that end, we started a show, the Overlooked Dark Knight, a non-index show.
Our goal is to talk about the previously mentioned overlooked stories and tell you why they're worth your time.
The show comes out twice a month, with the first episode focusing on the Bat books from the late 70s and early 80s. We're starting with the Len Wein run and working our way forward through the books written by Jerry Conway and eventually Doug Mensch.
On the second episode of the month, we'll dig into the various adventure comics that were based on the Fox Kids / Kids WB Batman animated shows because they're really good and hardly anyone seems to remember that they exist.
The show can be found at the Fortress of Baileytude Podcasting Network, which is located at www.fortressofbaileytude.com.
The Overlooked Dark Knight, the non-index show.
Shining a bat signal on the bat stories that no one seems to remember or care about.
Because somebody has to.
One moment before we start. I just became an uncle again. I just wanted to announce that. I just literally got the text while we're recording, so.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Looking forward to meeting him.
So our last book tonight is World's Finest, number 288, To Hell and Back. And we got a cover. On this cover, you got Superman and Batman in the crystal ball with the cloud, the mysterious cloud. What did you think of this cover?
At a glance, it's very boring, but when you look closer and you look at the reflections, then it gets really interesting. So I think it's a really good cover, just not quite the kind that grabs you on the spinner rack.
No, maybe not. But it adds right to what's going on in the book. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh, did you notice that the signature is backwards in the reflection? I hadn't caught that yet.
No.
Nice detail.
I like
that.
Right. That's pretty cool. I do like that. So, in this issue, Superman continues searching for Batman after he was snatched away by some demons. When Superman heads to the Justice League satellite, he loses his temper, but when he learns that Zatanna is recovered, he goes to ask her about her experience with the dark magic, but she's barely aware of what really happened. In the meantime, Madame Zodiac and her Dark Master have prepared Batman's body for possession, and the Dark Cloud takes hold of Batman. The Dark Entity then claims that he will take over the world using several clones of Batman's body, which will serve his evil purposes. Meanwhile, Superman is trying to find Batman when his attention is drawn to a monster prowling Metropolis. Superman follows the beast. When he captured it, he is soon transported to the Dark Place, where there is a small mausoleum in the middle of nowhere. Superman breaks into the place and confronts the dark being in Batman's body using hypnosis.
Yep, it's a thing.
And remind me to say something about that, because that threw me off. That threw me off for a minute. So using hypnosis, Superman forces Batman to fight the evil inside him by making him recall the past tragedy that shaped him. With Batman fighting for control of his body, Superman gets help from Dr. Zodiac, who informs Superman about a secret door that will unlock someone who can help them against the Dark Entity. Superman breaks the door, and they find the real Madame Zodiac inside, trapped and powerless. When they free her, she explains that the Dark Entity manifested to her while she was practicing occult arts and used the Zodiac idol to separate her into two parts. Her evil part allied with the Dark Entity, and they locked her in this room. Once free, the good Madame Zodiac confronts her evil counterpart, and after the struggle, a single person comes out Madame Zodiac's evil personality takes control, and Dr. Zodiac fights her. But both of them are knocked unconscious by the dark entity, who's been defeated by Batman and is returned to the globe, where it commands all Batman clones to fight Batman and Superman. The heroes work together to destroy the clones, and after dealing with all of them, they use the Zodiac Idol to destroy the dark entity globe and send it back to its own dimension. With the threat under control, Batman and Superman return to their normal lives, even though they just experienced something hard to understand. So, we have the final issue of our World Finest Arc, Part 4. So, David, what did you think?
I will clarify that when we chose this, I hadn't completed this story yet. In the end, it felt like it was like the Justice League movie we got versus what was intended. Somebody came in and changed it because we have completely different writers in this one and another artist. So I got to the end of this, and I think my reaction was, huh? There were some good moments, but huh? That's what we're going with? Evil doppelganger? Okay.
I was wondering if that had already been decided, or that it was something the writers that came in, added to that. Well, you knew there was something behind a door previously.
Yeah.
So you wasn't sure what it could be. I didn't think it was, the original Madame Zodiac. I wasn't sure what it was. One thing that caught me off guard here a little bit is, okay, I understand Superman is very upset about his friend. He's going like crazy. He goes a little passive-aggressive, with the Flash there.
Well, he tries to kill the Flash.
Yes, and he isn't under the influence of anything. He isn't under the influence. Superman goes a little crazy. He's kind of punching at the Flash, and he's like trying to kill him, and then he calms down, and he's like, and the Flash is pretty like, what's gotten into you, sort of thing. I'm wondering what's gotten into him because he's acting a little crazy. He doesn't seem Superman like there.
No, he's a little out of control, and that's a scary thing in Superman, a guy that can juggle planets.
Yeah.
Like, Flash actually says, your punch would have torn me apart if I didn't possess super speed. Now imagine if that had been somebody else. That had been like Black Canary.
Right. Yeah.
A little out of character. I didn't necessarily... I get that he's upset, but that was not a great scene. It was not well written.
No, it was. It had me raise my eyebrows a little bit on that one. But then we get to, Wonder Woman is called and said Zatanna is awake, and he flies there like crazy. Now, it's some interesting things, and I'm not going to say I know, like, a lot of pre-crisis Wonder Woman, but was you surprised, or did you know about, he's not allowed to touch the ground and that sort of thing?
No man can touch the ground for Paradise Island, yeah. So he has to float.
Okay. Which, it makes sense. I just didn't remember that, and it makes sense. And Zatanna doesn't really remember anything. They've been waiting all this time for her to heal, and they've been checking in on her, and she doesn't remember anything, really.
Wah.
Yeah, doesn't seem to be a big help. So, yeah, and there's the scene where they flip back to, the dark cloud is trying to get into Batman's body, and all the other creatures out in the crowd sort of remind me. There's something it reminds me of. I can't think what it is.
It looks like the Muppets to me.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Something with the Muppets.
Fraggle Rock. It was the big human-type creatures that lived above Fraggle Rock.
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't noticed it, but now that you pointed it out, I can't unsee it.
So, I mean, it's interesting. Dr. Zodiac, the only thing that he does is he tries to get in this door. He doesn't really... His function in this whole book really isn't anything except he had the Zodiac Idol, basically. That was his only real thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it felt like he suddenly became pointless to have around.
Right. I mean, you have the title of Dr. Zodiac. It seemed like they had a good premise to start out, but it kind of, with the different writers and that sort of thing, it sort of kind of fizzled, I guess.
Well, I think it's because this story was stretched out a little too far. This actually, the whole concept would have been a great two-parter.
Yeah, I think so.
I think by the time we got to the end of it, I'd gotten tired of it. So
I was ready for it to end. But there were some pieces that I enjoyed in here, and
Like the super hypnotism.
yeah, the super hypnotism. I hadn't heard that. I had to look it up, and it was a thing, a pre-crisis thing. I don't know how often it was used, and I'm not, that knowledgeable on pre-crisis Superman, and my pre-crisis anything except for Batman is probably stronger than any. That's he had a lot of different, superpowers, and which is kind of interesting, but I was like, he's not going to hypnotize basically Batman out of this, basically.
Yep.
He made him, recreate the murders of his parents, saying that Joe Chill's the one. Black Cloud is Joe Chill, and that's how Batman broke out. That was kind of interesting, I thought.
I thought that was one of the better elements. That made sense to me. Have him fight against the thing he rages against most.
Right. And then when he gets there, Superman goes to Dr. Zodiac, and he takes him to the door, and he's like, they find the original Marissa, Madame Zodiac, or whatever. And, okay, here's the part that's it seems they weren't listening, or I don't know, but she says, you destroy the orb, you destroy, the dark cloud, the dark entity. All you need to do is destroy the cloud. And it seems like they did everything but.
Yeah.
Let's just go destroy the orb. They ended up destroying the orb, and that ended everything. But didn't she say at the beginning that you needed to destroy the orb? And they
Well, we're going to do all this other stuff first. We got to take the long way.
And then, the Zodiac idol was the weapon that they were using to destroy, because he went into all the bodies of the Batmen that were made, and, the idol was the thing that was taking everybody out. And then finally, the dark cloud is like a upside down fish bowl, took him out, and he was going. And then they're like, they don't even want to talk about it. They just want to go have a cup of coffee.
Right. I feel like I would have to decompress after something. If I'd been possessed,
yeah. Something. Yeah. You were possessed. Superman, you've been through a lot trying to make sure your friend survives. But yeah, they're big on the coffee in this story, because they had coffee at the beginning.
The theme is, I guess, everything can be fixed with coffee.
Absolutely. And I mean, it did fill in the blanks a little bit, why Superman got the visions he got, and then why he followed the creature, and then the creature didn't say anything, and they went in. So it kind of filled in the blanks a little bit there, explained things. I think it went on a little too long.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would recommend that this be a must-read story. It was entertaining, but I don't know if I would recommend to somebody, hey, this is one of the ones you must pick up and read.
No, because I think once we move on to the next episode, I'm going to completely forget this story ever existed.
Maybe so.
And one day I'll look through my Comixology library, I'm like, what was this? Oh, yeah. Not the greatest pick, I'll admit that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It was enjoyable. It just, the story maybe went on a little too long. But anyway, so you have any final thoughts here?
No, it was good to see some of the pre-crisis DC again and get to revisit that. Barry Allen Flash, Wonder Woman as the pre-crisis Wonder Woman. We got to see Firestorm in there somewhere in the series, and Green Arrow. Yeah. That part was a treat, but
no, that was fun.
It was weak sauce.
The Flash. It really tormented the Flash. The Flash just wanted to be friends, and then here, Superman's trying to punch his head off, and the Flash took a beating in this story.
Yeah, that was awkward.
Yeah.
I'm going to just have to give the demerit for that alone.
Okay, we're going to go ahead, and we're going to head to what we learned.
Come on, Robin. To the Batcave. We haven't one moment to lose.
So, David, what did you learn in today's episode?
I learned that looking at one and only one image can put the Fraggle Rock theme song in your head.
That's true. And that might be in there for days now.
Yeah.
Days you'll be humming at work, or like, what are you singing? And it's like, you really don't want to know. Or maybe you do, but you probably don't want to know.
You'll regret it. Because it's going to be in your head, too.
Yes, absolutely.
So what did you learn this time, Bill?
So I learned that the ghosts that you see in dreams or visions could be real, so you better listen to them. And I meant you, David, not me, because if I see a ghost in a vision or a dream, it's just going to freak me out too much.
You just start running. But I should listen to the ghost in my head. It feels like a theme in this episode.
Yeah, listen to that little voice in your head. So yeah, that was our latest episode, so it's fun. We ended World's Finest. We're going to head on some good stuff. The next few weeks, we're going to be doing some single issues because we're part of the JLA May.
Paul Hicks is the one that's spearheading this one.
Who I've had on the show before is running the JL May, and every issue of it's the Brave and the Bold. It's the third version. For the Brave and the Bold, we're going to be doing issues number 3 and number 27, which is Batman and Blue Beetle and Batman and Doll H. So that's going to be pretty exciting. That'll be coming out in May. And so we're going to be doing single issues before that. And then we'll get back to her longer stories. But it should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. So, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, not this time. I'm a blank slate. I just hope everybody makes good choices. Be safe.
Ditto. Got a quote from Ghost, which, that's pretty good. The theme from this episode, Ghost, that fit right in. So, okay, let's get out of here before I get even cheesier. Until next time, same bat time, same bat channel. We will see you later.